You're listening to the Wheatgrass and Champaign podcast with holistic entrepreneurs Mandi Rose and Kathleen Hupp. Tune in each Wednesday to discuss holistic approaches to a happier, more fulfilling life and glittery distractions from the mundane. Nothing is off limits in this series, so grab your glass of champagne or your shot of wheatgrass and prepare for complete and fabulous chaos.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Wheatgrass and Champaign. Kathleen and I have a guest on today that is really inspiring, and I learned so much from her. Kathleen, how did you meet her again?
Her sister-in-law has a shop 2 doors down from Good Vibes, our Dunedin location, and they're the sweetest couple. And one day we were just talking about blogs and eco-friendly ways and things like this. And Kathryn's sister-in-law was like, oh my gosh, my sister-in-law has this amazing blog and tons of followers. You have to check out her page and her mission. She's so inspiring. And so I did. And I was like, wow, we need to have her on the podcast. So the rest is history, and we interviewed her today. Her interview is so much fun and so down to earth. You would think that someone who only accumulates one mason jar of trash in 1 year would be just kind of intimidating and would be just this like unicorn that you can't even relate to, but she's so relatable and has really solid, attainable tips. So we're really excited for this interview.
Yeah, you guys will have to check her out on Instagram. She shows a picture. If you scroll back a little bit in her feed, she posted the photo of the mason jar that was filled with all the trash that she accumulated in 1 year. And when I first heard that, I was expecting like a mason jar, like stuffed, like you compress
like starting with like a 50-ounce mason jar to begin with. But no, it's like a 16-ounce.
Yeah, it's 16 ounces, and it like has room that you could even like shake the trash in it. And I was like, wait, what? For an entire year, that's all you created for trash? And I was really, shook by that. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I definitely had some amazing questions to ask her. I wanted to know all the details on how that happened, especially being a female in modern day society. I probably throw that trash away in like 30 minutes. So.
I know, we've gotten so bad as a society, but she gives solid tips of how we can get back to our roots, get more simple, and
save a lot of money. She blew my mind. She talks a little bit about the financial aspect of not having waste and trash. So
yeah, she broke it down, and the figure is mind-blowing. So you'll have to listen for that. But it's so inspiring. Like, she just has totally changed her mindset, and it affects every aspect of her life. And it's not overwhelming for her because her her mission is so much greater that in everything she does, it almost brings joy to do that, to go back to the simple way and to trade out paper towels for cloth towels and things like that. So
yeah. And if you guys are not driving and you are on your phone, go to her Instagram. It's going.0.waste. And that is her Instagram. So you can kind of browse through her photos and see her cute face. She is so adorable as she's talking to us, and enjoy the podcast. Hopefully it inspires you guys to implement some of the steps that she shares on how we can be better for the planet and, also take care of our bodies. That's a big part of going zero waste, is helping remove the toxins and all the load of the environment.
And she also has a book coming out in just 2 months. So stay tuned for that, because that will be even more tangible tips on how to change your life for the better and live a more sustainable life.
Yay. So enjoy the podcast, guys. So I absolutely love your Instagram, Kathryn. I was like browsing through it, and I feel like I learned so much, but you are just adorable. Like everything you post, everything you say just resonates with me, and I find it so inspiring. So how did you even decide to start doing all of this zero waste?
Oh, thank you. It's honestly, it's a bit of a long story, but when I moved out to California, it was kind of the first I'd ever seen a really horrible litter problem. And that's kind of when everything clicked for me. I was making a lot of changes to my personal life, trying to avoid plastic and other endocrine disruptors that can be found in things like our beauty products and cleaning products. And when I moved, it all clicked for me that the changes I was making for my personal health weren't only better for me, but also better for the health of the planet. And I just really wanted to start a kind of an awareness platform so that people knew that no matter what change you're making, if you're making a small change or a big change, that still has a positive impact. And I thought that should be celebrated. And at the time, most of the accounts were very all or nothing. And so I really wanted to kind of have this moderate ground that people could come to and connect with.
Yeah, that's amazing. It kind of resonates like with Kathleen and I doing our podcast with wheatgrass and champagne, like you can find balance. And I think that's something you were kind of highlighting recently on your Instagram that, you dove in really deep and then now you're realizing that you can kind of come back a little bit, but it's all about like the bigger picture of finding the balance, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's really admirable too, because I think a lot of people will see your page or see your blog right at first and almost be intimidated because you seem like the perfection, like the poster child of zero waste. And they're like, well, I could never commit that far, so I'm not even going to try. And I'm not going to take a reusable bag to the grocery store. But like you said, celebrating accomplishments, no matter how big or small, is so important. So I think that's awesome that you embody that.
Thank you.
So for someone just starting out, like they find your page, they are so inspired. Can you give us some really easy, simple ways that someone could just start off like right away today on going zero waste?
I recommend that everyone start with the big 4. These are like 4 really easy changes that happen mostly outside of the house. Typically, we experience a lot of trash in our day-to-day when we're out, right? We go to get coffee, we go to get takeaway, we just have these habits that tend to produce a lot of waste. So by just adopting these 4 things, you'll be able to drastically reduce the amount of waste you're producing when you're out of the home. So that's bring a reusable water bottle with you when you head out of the house.
Ooh, yes.
What I remember is I ask myself, I'm sure we all do this, we have a checklist of things we do before we go out the door, phone, wallet, keys. I recommend everyone add water. So it's phone, wallet, water, keys. And then you can just make sure you have everything with you. I recommend a double insulated water bottle because it keeps hot drinks hot and cold drinks cold. So whenever you're out to get coffee, you can hand them over the water bottle and they can put the coffee straight in there and it'll stay hot all day long. I also recommend bringing your own bags to the grocery store. If you forget, they make some that clip onto your key ring, so you'll always have them with you. And then, of course, ask for no straw when you're out to eat at a restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Those are good ones. And like you said, they're really simple, actually.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference?
They don't take any more time, as you're heading out the door. It doesn't take a lot of extra time. It doesn't take, it just takes a little bit of forethought. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah, just a little bit. So question, when you go out to eat at a restaurant or to, call in an order and pick it up on the way home from work or something, do you bring your own containers or do they have some kind of packaging option that you would grab?
I do typically bring my own containers, and it's so much more simple than it sounds. And honestly, I think it's a lot easier to bring my own dishes than it is to have wind up with a whole bunch of trash.
Mm-hmm.
But I typically call ahead and I ask, like, hey, I'm coming and I'm going to have my own containers. Can you have this ready for me? And typically they do. And then I can just put it in my own containers. It's really simple, but, sometimes we all have really bad weeks. And I have to say pizza boxes are compostable. So.
Oh, that's a fun fact that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Nice. So being in California, I would think that restaurants would be more accepting of that, of you calling in and saying, I have containers? Or do you think nationwide that people are pretty receptive to that?
I think it always just depends on who the person is and where you are and the time of day.
Yeah, that's true.
But I have done it pretty much, not all over the country, but in a good portion of states. And I have always been really well received. And I think the trick is you don't ask, very politely tell. You don't ask them a question. So instead of saying, can I, you say, I'm going to.
Ooh,
okay.
Yes.
And then you always say please and thank you. So
okay.
That's a really good tip, actually.
Nice. Okay. So we kind of polled our audience of listeners what they wanted to ask you. And by far, the number one question was just how? Like, how do you survive 1 year with a mason jar full of trash and that's it? So do you have, I mean, I know you have a million tips and tricks and you have your big four, so that kind of sums that up. But I guess, what is the biggest struggle? Like, what is the hardest thing to give up when you're trying to watch your waist?
So I don't particularly think there is anything. I think it's really a frame of mind of, are you taking things and depriving yourself from things, or are you adding new things into your life? And for me, I never looked at it as I was depriving myself of anything. In fact, it was better because, you know, I ate a lot of Pop-Tarts and Oreos, and when I cut those out of my life, that was much better for me.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Health-wise.
Yeah,
And, you know, it was one of those, right. And it was one of those things where it's like, if I really wanted one, I mean, like, I wasn't going to stop myself, but it's like a challenge, right? It's like, okay, let's just do it. Let's try. Let's give it a go. Let's see how things turn out. And for every disposable item, that can serve in its place. And I think it's really important that we ask ourselves, though, is, do I need this? Because most of the time the answer is no.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't need a lot of things that we think we need. Marketers are very, very good at trying to convince us to buy things we don't. So I put a buy ban. I have a ban of like 30 days where it's like, if I want something, I have to wait and think about it for 30 days. And then if I still want it after that 30 days, you know, because that gives me plenty of time to come up with other creative solutions, make sure I don't have something similar already, you know, hiding in the back of my cupboards, then it's like I've got full permission to go out and buy it. And most of the time I found that I don't need it and I don't buy it.
That's awesome.
And
do you do that all the time, or is it just, you know, here and there you'll have a buy ban?
no, I do it. It's like pretty much a permanent thing because I'm so susceptible to marketing. Like, I watch one TV show and then I'm like, great, I want all of their outfits. You know, I'm
I
like
have to
out
spend
trying to
$500.
find. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, you're gonna wait 30 days, and after 30 days, I'm like, okay, yeah, I really don't need that.
Yeah, that's such a good rule.
We talked about that on our minimalist episode on how, like, in the kitchen, we have 5 tools that all cut. It's like an apple core, a pineapple cutter, a pizza cutter. It's like, we just need one knife. So yeah, marketing gets us all. So when
and then it was just about phasing out disposable items. So, you know, if you look around your home and you think about items you throw away, you're literally paying for trash.
Mm-hmm.
Paper towels, you're paying to throw something away, which is absurd. And most people didn't do that up until like the 1980s is when paper towels really started to kind of become a thing. And it's like, so many of these things we've had to be convinced for years that we need. And by swapping to a reusable counterpart, it lasts so much longer. You save a lot of money. And honestly, not having to take out the trash and not having to look at trash or smell trash or be near trash is really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you first started, did you, like you said, it was kind of like a challenge. Did you challenge yourself to like 30 days and then it expanded to a year? Or when you went in, were you like, I'm going to do it for a full year and see what happens?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it definitely takes time because, to be honest with you, I still have some things now, 4 years later, that I still had from before I went zero waste, mainly like eyeshadow palettes, because like I don't know if those ever go away. I feel like they'll last longer than I will.
That's true, they do.
That's so true. I'm like not even thinking about that, but oh my gosh, that like metal and color and
right. So you know, it was it took me probably about 3 to 4 months to find like a good rhythm and to find a good system. And then once I found it, I was like, okay, well, how long can I do this? Like, let's do a year. And then I did 2 years. And then on the 3rd year, I stopped collecting my trash, but obviously I still live with the same principles.
Right.
And that's awesome. And that's where you kind of eased off and maybe invited a little more, not balance, but
flexibility.
Yeah, maybe a little more flexibility or a little less restraint on yourself.
Yeah, I was going for no recycling at the time, which is insane.
Whoa.
And it wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't feel super beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I'd much rather have a little bit of recycling. I was spending, so I probably had, okay, so like if we were thinking about it in percent, like I was 98% of the way there. And I spent like, you know, no extra time on the 98%, but the last 2% was taking up a good deal of my time. And it's like, you know, I'm just going to live with the 2% and spend my time in a better way. And so instead now I do advocate for, you know, larger systematic changes, helping people get involved in local government, donating to groups and organizations, peering with groups and organizations. And I just felt like that was a better use of my time than trying to eliminate the final 2% of recycling that I had.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Just trying to make change kind of in your local government, local community.
And then the power with Instagram, you can now reach, hundreds of thousands of people, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That brings up a question I had with the Instagram community. I find that a lot of people who try to not market themselves, but kind of spread awareness of doing better, they almost become a target for people, and people want to find the flaw in what they do. And they're very quick to criticize, even though they might be living this horribly wasteful life. They might be like, well, I saw you use a plastic bag yesterday for the first time in 10 years. So shame on you. Do you find that happens a lot, or is it like a pretty supportive community?
I personally think it's a really supportive community. However, you will never please everyone.
Yeah.
And so you just have to live with that.
Yep.
I find that most people who criticize you like that are people that have not even tried. That typically those people are like, they have no idea what you're doing. They don't understand it. And they're like, oh, well, you have a straw from 6 years ago.
Exactly. Like they're going to find that one thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, my friend posted this really great quote though, which was, most people who criticize you are doing less than you are.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so true.
That's really good. It's a good thing to remember, especially when you're doing something so unique and bringing awareness, then you're kind of creating a new social norm and creating change. And so with that, it's always going to come a little bit of hiccups and speed bumps. So yeah, you just have to keep pressing forward, right?
Absolutely.
So one thing, I'm sure people are listening to this, and on the surface level, I think I was even guilty of it. It's almost sounded like at first, like this was going to cost me more money, right? Like to go zero waste, I'm going to like spend more. But as you're talking and as I'm like kind of realizing and connecting the dots, you actually probably save a lot of money, right?
Yes, a lot. On average, at least $6,000 a year.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you've done the math. Oh, that's awesome.
Now, is that something you were expecting, or did that just kind of like shock you as you were going through the process?
Well, I was a professional actor. And as we all know, professional actors, stage actors, make no money. I was living on about $250 a week, and I found myself making a lot of these changes out of financial necessity.
Oh.
And when I moved to California, it really, like, the buzzword zero waste that I had heard for the first time really encompassed a lot of the changes I was making in my personal life, mostly out of financial necessity. So yes, it is definitely, it's depression era living. It is wasting nothing at the core. And so it's all about saving, conserving, and that does great things for your finances. And if I can present an example, I was just at the store to buy laundry powder, and there's a great bulk store here in San Francisco. And I know I'm very fortunate to have access to these kinds of stores, but not everyone does. But I was looking at the laundry detergent powder. And so there is a box of powder, and it is 5 pounds, and it costs, I think it was BioClean, it's like, organic, clean, green. And it was $15.75.
Whoa.
That's expensive. Yeah, that's expensive. But in the bulk section, where you can get it without a package, it costs $1.85.
What?
That's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
We are being robbed.
So
oh my gosh.
Without the box, it was almost a $7 savings.
Yeah.
Just by not buying the box.
That is ridiculous.
That's crazy. So I'm hoping
And on average, most things that I've encountered have been like that. The packaging costs a lot. They charge you a lot of money for packaging.
Yeah. And I think you can even almost see that when you're buying like generic versus name brand, you already see a price difference. A lot of that just has to do with like the recognition of the brand, but then you factor in also the production of the box or container. And it's a no-brainer that the things that we're buying are actually valued at a lot less than what we're paying.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. What a difference.
Mind blown.
Yes.
So what's some other questions? We have some really good questions.
Okay. So I did hear on, I believe another podcast that you were on, that there was like an exception, something you didn't put in the mason jar, and that was dog poop. Because like when you take your dog on a walk, you're going to bag it up in a compostable bag, but you're obviously not going to put that in your mason jar because gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, disgusting. Are there any other items that you would not put in there and just kind of like write them off, so to say?
If I had like some sort of like medical thing that like wouldn't be sanitary, then I wouldn't in there. Thankfully that never happened, so I didn't have to worry about it. Broken glass, I don't put broken glass in there because that's dangerous.
Yes.
Broken glass is not, well, it depends, but most of the time broken glass is not recyclable.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
it's actually landfill bound. I mean, it depends on where you are. I think y'all are in Florida, and I'm pretty sure Florida stopped accepting glass. Glass is 100% recyclable, infinitely, but the problem is it's very difficult to recycle. So oftentimes people shred it and use it for landfill cover.
Oh, wow.
That is insane. I know we always think we're doing such a good thing by recycling, and it's really just such almost like a dark industry. Like if there's not, I mean, they recycle our products and then they have to sell that recycled product. And if there's not a buyer for it, then it usually ends up in the landfill anyway.
Yes, which is why it's so important that we first reduce what we need, which would be something like putting a 30-day buy ban, and then reusing what we have. So instead of relying on disposable products, making those swaps to using reusable products that can be used over and over and over again. Because recycling, exactly like you said, a lot of people view recycling as a charity, and it's not. It's a business, and there has to be markets. And currently, there aren't a lot of markets for our products, and it's causing most of our stuff to go to landfill.
Mm-hmm.
So crazy.
So do you find, so you do it in your whole household? Is it just you, or do you have...
My husband.
Okay, and
and
your
of course, our pup.
Oh, yay. Okay, perfect. So compared to your husband, do you find as like a female, it's more difficult? Like, do you find that males like have an easier time because they don't use as many like beauty products and, body products and stuff? So how have you noticed like a difference between what you both each need, or have you just like minimized so much that you're like, I'm a human, he's a human, these are the things that we need?
Yeah, I guess I haven't really compared it too much. I will say, though, it is not fair that my husband has perfect hair, perfect skin, and he does nothing.
I know, they always do. That makes me think that our products are the reason that we struggle so much.
We put so much on.
Yeah, we use more products and then we age faster.
Hormone disrupting.
I have tried like the water only. Have tried his routine of not doing anything, and it does not, like, it's way worse for me.
We got those hormones, those lady hormones.
I know, he just has such good genes, and his eyelashes are so thick and so long. It's just
that
not
one's
fair.
always the biggest slap in the face when a guy has beautiful lashes.
Like, I can't even look at you and your lashes.
No, not fair. Okay, so another question from one of our listeners, since we're in the bathroom right now, feminine hygiene, where do you stand on that, like products and
reducing the waste?
Yeah, do you just kind of use something organic, or do you use a reusable product there, or what's your...
Yeah, I have tried all the reusable products. I like them all. Some menstrual cups are great if that works for you. It does not currently work for my body. I have an IUD, and due to placement, using a cup and an IUD can potentially be not good because it's suction based, and
Oh, true.
bag it up in. Yeah, I had a friend who pulled her IUD out.
No way. Well, I'm just glad you brought that up, because I think that's something a lot of women aren't aware of. And the Diva Cup and menstrual cup thing is like blowing up as a phenomena. So that's a really good disclaimer.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
A lot of people do it without any issue, but I am not.
Nope.
No, that's a different kind of pain.
And of course, there are reusable cloth pads, and those are great. But my preferred method is Thinx, the Thinx period underwear.
Yes.
I love them. I bought a cycle set of 5 pairs 3 years ago, now almost 4 years ago, and they have held up amazing. They are still, they work so well. And there's just, whenever you're on your period, you just like want to feel a little normal, like your hormones are out of whack.
Yeah.
typically, you're cramping, you don't feel good. You're like, I just want something to make me feel okay. And wearing a diaper is like not it. So wearing like the period underwear, you feel like you're like, oh, I'm cute. Like I look cute. I'm wearing real underwear, and I feel good about myself.
That is amazing. I'm so glad we got your review on that because I've heard a lot about them, but I was always curious.
I use them, but I only use them overnight. Like I haven't been brave enough to try them during the day. So do you, Kathryn, use them for your whole cycle?
I do. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I'll have to try.
You're brave. You got this.
So for me, like I'm super heavy on day one. So I like wear one pair for 12 hours and then I switch for like the next 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm pretty much fine to wear the hip huggers, which hold two super tampons worth, for 24 hours after that until the end of my cycle.
Okay.
That is so amazing.
What a good review.
And if anyone is interested, if I'm allowed to mention this, I am a Thinks ambassador. And so you can get $10 off if you head to my Thinks page, which is shethinks.com/pages/Kathryn. My name, Kathryn. And if you go there, you can get $10 off.
Oh, that's awesome.
Perfect. We'll put that in the show notes too for anyone.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
So you started writing a book. Can you tell us how that came about, what it's about, and all that?
I am so excited. I'm so excited to be done writing it.
How long did it take?
It is coming out April 2nd, so we are very close to launching, and it's called 101 Ways to Go Zero Waste. It is a manual. It is a handbook. It is full of tips. It is the book I wish I had when I started going zero waste. That is something you can read cover to cover, but also it just works really great if you have any question on something you want to make more eco-friendly. So if you're looking at your coffee machine making coffee and you're like, man, how can I do coffee more in a more eco-friendly way? You can just go straight to the chapter on coffee, read all about it. If you're headed to the grocery store and you're like, man, how can I make some better choices today? You can go to the grocery store chapter. You can read all about how you can make a few better changes that work for you and your lifestyle.
That is amazing. It sounds like it's going to be full of information.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'm excited. We'll definitely get a copy.
And where is it going to be available so our listeners can grab it?
It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, pretty much anywhere you buy books. There will be also a Kindle version, of course, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I will be narrating the audiobook, which will hopefully be available for purchase not too long afterwards.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I cannot wait.
So wait, does Audible have like an interview process to allow you to read your own book?
Yeah, I have to take it up with my editor.
Oh my goodness, how interesting.
I'm trying to prove to my editor that I'm worthy. I'm worthy of sound.
You are. We're going to vouch for you.
Listen to our podcast. She has a beautiful voice. That's crazy. But I mean, awesome. So congratulations on your book. That's going to be, I think, the Bible of going zero waste.
Absolutely.
I definitely need to up my game. So kind of one final question. How far do you take the going zero waste? Is it every aspect of your life, like in your carbon emissions and in your clothing and your wardrobe and everything? Or does it stop? Because I know you also grow some of your own food. So that's amazing. That reduces a ton of waste out there.
That's a great question. So zero waste, the definition of zero waste is to send nothing to a landfill. Of course, I take this from a much more holistic point of view, which is to waste nothing. That would lead into, carbon emissions, of course, and looking at the lifestyle in a more like holistic point of view of environmentalism and then like personal health. So when I talk about living a more environmentally friendly lifestyle, for me, that does mean like paying attention to my choices, my carbon emissions, making sure that whenever I do buy like new clothing, I want to be supporting sustainable and ethical brands because I want them to succeed, but also shopping the secondhand market because like of believing in reuse, eating a very plant-based diet because that's a much lower it's a diet that's much lower in carbon emissions. I do like buy offsets. I'm very cautious when I travel. And when I do travel, of course, I buy offsets. And so it is, I do take it to a very holistic point of view.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Major inspiration.
And I think something that you're kind of saying over and over again is it doesn't seem like a challenge when your why is so strong. So I would love to kind of just wrap up with like you sharing your why, because we talk about it often in different podcasts that the only time you're going to make a change or do better or, improve your life in some way is when your why is really strong, because then it doesn't feel like a chore. It feels like almost fun and you're motivated to continue on. So I would love for you just to kind of wrap it up and share your why on why this is so important and why you even started the journey in the first place.
Yeah, I think that is so important. And I think it's also important to note that when I first started, I was very trash centric. And then the longer I did that, the easier it became, the more habitual it was, the more I started looking into other aspects. So this is certainly not, I didn't wake up one day and was just like, wow, I'm going to be an environmentalist. It took a lot of time for me to learn a lot of these things. I think it's hilarious. If you go back to one of my very first blog posts, I have brought my own plate and I'm eating like a double bacon cheeseburger. You know what I mean? Like, it's hilarious. Like, there's just so many things I've learned along the way. And I think my why about why I do this really has to do with personal health. It really is like very selfish. And I think we all can appreciate the fact that we are a part of nature. We don't operate above nature. I personally feel like I enjoy like breathing and drinking clean water. And I think we can all be excited about those two things. Mm-hmm. And so my why is like, I want to live a healthier life and I want to leave a healthier planet to future generations.
Yeah, I think that's so impactful.
It really is. And when, like Mandi said, when your why is strong, it just keeps you motivated and almost excited to do the motions, to go through, because you're, living your true self.
Yeah. And you're very like down to earth. So someone looking at your Instagram or even talking to you, you make them feel like, oh, I could do that too. You're not like acting holier than thou or like acting like, everyone has to or should. It's just like, this is what I do and you can do it too. And I love that attitude about you.
Yes.
Thank you. I absolutely agree that that's like absolutely my goal. And I think it's also important that this is a lifestyle change. So I love the word in terms of sustainability because we often think of it in terms of the planet, but it's also really important for us, like what is personally sustainable to us. And you want to make sure that the changes you're making are personally sustainable as well as being sustainable for the planet, which means that you're playing the long game, you're going slow, and then sometimes if you have a really bad day, you get the pizza box, it's just what happens. Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head. Make it personally sustainable, because otherwise it's just going to drag you down or be a source of frustration, and that goes nowhere.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, Kathryn, thank you so much. This interview was one of our favorites, and thanks for being flexible again, inspiring, and encouraging everyone to, celebrate every small achievement and every big achievement. I think that's awesome.
And I cannot wait to get your book. I'm so stoked now. You said April 2nd, right?
April 2nd. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sure you tell everyone that theirs was your favorite, but I appreciate it anyways.
They keep getting better, I swear. Each one, we're like, yes, new one, new favorite.
But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course. We'll be in touch.
Bye.
Bye.
That wraps up Kathryn's interview this week, which was such a good one. And this week's WAC Upgrade Challenge is to take a reusable cup the next time you go out to get a coffee or tea in public. Don't use a disposable cup, no plastic, no paper. This is something I've gotten really sloppy about personally. I used to have so many mason jars that I would take to get a coffee with. And I don't know where they all went. I think my husband demolished them all, or
sounds like my husband in the Tupperware.
Or left them in the juice bar. Like they just vanished from our life. So I need to go stock up on mason jars and do it right. But anyway, we challenge you guys to do the same and take a picture and tag us.
And I will do it as well for all the tea I get.
Yes. She's the tea drinker. I'm coffee. We're the perfect balance.
Team tea. Are you guys team tea or team coffee?
As always, we love to hear from you guys. So keep reaching out for questions for our guests and comments on the episode, what you love, what you want more of, what you want less of. We love to hear from you. So connect with us and we'll talk to you soon.
And whether you're cleansing or celebrating,
Cheers.
cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Join the Wheatgrass and Champagne community on Instagram, Facebook, and wheatgrassandchampagne.com. Details from this episode can be found in the show notes below. Tune in next Wednesday as we continue to seek the perfect balance between indulging and upgrading. Until then, cheers.